We will call this a regular meeting of the Board of Public Works to order. This is Tuesday, December 22nd of 2020. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board this evening?
Just wishing everyone a safe and happy holiday.
Yep, and I just wanted to thank everyone for sticking with us this year. I know it's been a crazy year for everyone, but I appreciate everyone's hard work and being adaptable and trying to get by this year. So thank you for all your work to the team and to my fellow board members.
Thank you, and to the leaf picker-uppers. I think leaving this done, they did a wonderful job before the weather got bad. That's all good.
Yeah, thank you. I would echo my fellow board members. Thanks to them for this good year. Thanks to all the city staff for working so hard. Public Works is one of those departments that doesn't rest. And so I'm hoping that even with that in mind, that everyone does get some moment of rest during this holiday season. So thank you. Next up, we have petitions and remonstrances. If we have anyone who's here to make a public comment about something not on the agenda, now is the opportunity to do so. Do we have anyone who would like to make public comment on something not on the agenda?
I don't see any hands raised.
All right, now's probably a good opportunity to just mention if you do want to make a comment and can use the chat function, that is a great way to let us know that as well. But seeing that we have no comments, no hands raised, no one has unmuted, I will move on to the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda is the approval of minutes for December 8th of 2020 and approval of the payroll register. Do we have anything we need to remove from the consent agenda this evening? Hearing none. Do we have any public comments on anything within the consent agenda?
Nothing in the chat and no hands raised.
All right, seeing none. Is there a motion from the board on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have new business. First under new business is resolution 2020-60, approved transfer ownership of the John Waldron Arts Center to City of Bloomington.
Looks like we have Sean Starowitz here to present.
No, Jackie's actually going to be presenting on this one. Is she on here?
Yes, she is. I do know that Jackie was having some technical issues with her speaker yesterday, so maybe we can get her unmuted here.
I can run with it. Hang on, let me bring it up. Sorry.
Yeah, Sean, if you don't mind, go right ahead.
Yeah, no worries. Let me just shrink my Zoom real quick. Okay, Sean Starowitz, ESD. Wait, I realized it's my first Board of Public Works meeting, I think, via Zoom, unfortunately, since we haven't had any community events this year. So Sean Starowitz, Economic and Sustainable Development. This is for the transfer of ownership for the John Waldron to the City of Bloomington. In May of this year, Ivy Tech released a statement announcing that the John Waldron Art Center, the Waldron, would be transferred back to the city as Ivy Tech was no longer able to maintain it as a community art center. The deed and the real estate conveyance agreement transferring the Waldron to Ivy Tech in 2010 provided that the Waldron would revert to the city if Ivy Tech did not continue to operate it as a community art center. The return of the ownership to the city will allow Ivy Tech to focus on its mission of increasing educational attainment of residents in the communities served by Ivy Tech. In June of 2020, the State Board of Trustees of Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana approved the transfer of the John Waldron Art Center to the city of Bloomington. The recommendation is legal department recommends that the Board of Public Works approve the transfer of the John Waldron Art Center back to the city by the way of the quitclaim deed from Ivy Tech Community College of Indiana. And just so you all know, ESD, Public Works will be managing kind of the oversight and the maintenance and the continued potential use of the building. We don't know what that looks like. There is a Waldron task force that has been assigned for members of the public and for the board to know. That's being led by Maya Michelson and Valerie Penna, with about 12 other, super qualified, amazing community residents that are helping guide the future and what exactly we should be doing with this building. As you all know, this is home to many arts organizations, from Gallery Walk to Cardinal Stage, Jewish Theater of Bloomington, Stages Bloomington, BPP. Everybody uses the Waldron at some kind of capacity. So it's a very kind of dire infrastructure for the arts and culture community. And so while the future is yet to be determined, we're hopeful to have recommendations within the year of 2021. So happy to answer any questions you all may have.
This is Jackie. I'm going to have my audio going.
Sean, I think the task force has met one time already.
Yes.
And then, so they plan to have their work done by maybe in April.
Yeah,
move forward.
Yeah, the hope is by April recommendations. That's timing a few things, right? There's a city survey that the city are releasing. There's a possibility that the Waldron might have a role in that citywide survey. But obviously, due to how the fiscal year and the seasons run for the arts and cultural groups, it's usually a July 1 start date. So having recommendations about the future of the building for groups, which is one of the major users, need to kind of a direction of the building assigned by them. Now, granted, with COVID and the restrictions because of COVID, I don't think there's going to be any, from what I've spoken with arts and culture groups, and kind of return to what looked like normal until the fall. And that's just a ability factor with people, vaccine access, those kinds of things.
Thank you. Also, is there any monetary considerations in this transfer?
No, I believe not. The ESD has part of recovery board funds has allotted some for Waldron. That could be operational support or just paying bills, those kinds of things. But there's not a monetary value assigned to this.
All right, thank you.
And yesterday, I'm sorry, Jackie, are you there?
I think I finally got the audio working.
It sounds like you're in a distant tunnel. You're sort of here.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. It's just a little faint.
Okay, I'll talk a little louder. I apologize for not being here at the beginning. As far as monetary consideration, this is just being transferred by quitclaim. There's no payment going back and forth. And actually, Ivy Tech has already gotten their permission, their board approved the quitclaim back to the city.
All right. I think we got that this is transferred by quitclaim deed, not by a sale of any sort.
Yes, it will be quitclaim. It has not yet, but it will be.
Okay. In yesterday's work session, we had discussed the fact that the city and Ivy Tech had been discussing, any remaining needs or updates that needed to happen before the transfer of the property, and it sounded like that was to the city's satisfaction as of our discussion yesterday.
Yes, we've done due diligence. So as Ivy Tech, we're I believe satisfied with what came back on the kind of appraisal, and granted there are, it's 100-plus-year-old building, so there is some long-term maintenance, routine maintenance type stuff. We had a Bruce Tabor run the report, so we have kind of like immediate needs, mid-level, and then from there on out. But we have kind of a 5-year kind of maintenance outlook for the building, but nothing seemed out of ordinary. For the transfer, earlier this year, Ivy Tech had pursued a Bloomington urban enterprise facade. So a lot of tuck pointing had been done, some architectural work there. So there's been some, maintenance that has been started and just now complete. And so we have a kind of an updated list on that, but we don't foresee any issues moving with the transfer and this building. There's, some interesting tie-ins with WFHB being there, and where the utilities come from, the internet for connections, those kinds of things. So we're trying to do our due diligence on that to make sure that even though WFHB has gone remote, they're not, the power's not cut out for a 12-hour window or something in the middle of the transfer, that kind of stuff.
Thanks. Any other questions from the board on this item? Beth, did you have a question?
No, I don't. I'm just waiting for the
Okay,
resolution.
sure. Do we have any public comments on this item? I don't see any items in the chat, and I don't see any raised hands. Seeing no public comment, do we have a motion from the board?
I move that we approve Resolution 2020-60, approve transfer of ownership of the John Waldron Art Center to City of Bloomington.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you all. Happy holidays, and hoping to see you all more in the new year when we start to have community events again. So
Thanks. Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Sean.
Next up, we have approved preliminary engineering contract with WSP USA for neighborhood greenway projects.
Good evening, Neil Copper, Planning and Transportation. This contract contains services to complete preliminary engineering tasks for multiple Phase 1 neighborhood greenway projects as prioritized in the city's transportation plan. WSP was selected to perform the preliminary engineering services for these projects based on their response to an RFI. The board will recall that in its previous meeting, we approved a similar contract with Eagle Ridge to do a different set of projects. The anticipated projects in this contract include Weatherstone from Hawthorne to Hillside, Hawthorne from Weatherstone to Third, Sheridan and South Downs from Woodlawn to Jordan, South Downs, Ruby and Nancy from Jordan to High, and Covenanter from High to College Mall. Each individual greenway project will involve public input, and construction of the projects will likely be spread between 2021 to 2023. Because the exact scope of the final design efforts is not yet known, this contract is set up to include task orders with individual fee amounts and approvals for each task order. Task order 1 includes approval for the planning, public input, and conceptual design efforts. It will be billed based on a time and materials basis with a not to exceed amount of $153,835. Future task orders will include final design tasks and will each come to the board for approval. Compensation for all task order services will be adjusted as future task orders are approved, but is initially set at a not to exceed total amount of $400,000. Staff has reviewed the contract and recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Neil, how will you decide which neighborhood is going to be first on the consideration for the project?
So the transportation plan prioritized this group of streets.
Okay.
There's a priority ranking for the streets that are listed here. As to which of these 5 will come first, we will look to the Planning and Transportation Department, the transportation planners, to kind of decide which one makes sense to go first.
Okay, and then public input will be for each one individually as they come up? You'll
Correct.
be asking for, okay, at that time. Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board on this item? Are there any public comments on this item? Seeing no comments in the chat and no
Yes, go right ahead. No hands are raised either.
hands. Michael, did you have something you needed to?
I was just saying there was no hands raised.
All right, thanks. Is there a motion from the board?
I move approval of the preliminary engineering contract with WSP USA for the Neighborhood Greenway project.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you all, and I hope everyone has a great holiday.
Thanks, you too. Next up is approve construction contract with Rivertown Construction LLC for the bus stop improvements project.
Good evening. Roy Ayton with the Planning and Transportation Department. This project will make access improvements to over 25 bus stops throughout the city. Some of the improvements will include sidewalk access, loading zone, benches, and shelters. The project is part of the city's Recover Forward initiative, and bids were opened at a virtual meeting on December 18th, with the city receiving 2 bids, one bid from E&B Paving Inc. and another bid from Rivertown Construction LLC, with Rivertown Construction being the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Construction is anticipated to begin late winter, early spring 2021. And throughout construction, some lane restrictions will be required for the project. The staff has reviewed both the bids and the agreement, and we are making a recommendation to award the project to Rivertown Construction LLC with the following condition of approval. That is, the notice to proceed shall be limited to the work specified by the base bid and alternate number 1. Additional work covered by alternates number 2 and 3 shall be contingent upon available funding and shall not proceed until written notice has been issued by the city. And the reason for that recommendation, condition of approval, is just there's limited funding right at the end of this year, the 2020 year. We anticipate more funding being available at the beginning of next year, but until that funding's available, we won't be able to award for the entire contract amount. And to give an idea to the board, the entire contract amount is $485,671. The notice to proceed that we're asking for base bid plus alternate 1 is $355,969. And I believe our current funding at this time is $400,750. So we'll be approving just the work up to $400,750. In case there's any, we are recommending approval. In case you have any questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
Roy, how many bus stop improvements are included in this? I think it's a total of 25 that you're looking at. How many will be included in this first phase?
I don't have that number right. There's a map that was also presented in the packet. It's kind of odd how we came up with the name of 25 stops. It's kind of 25 locations, but at each location there may be a stop at both sides of the road or one side of the road or different types of things to do. So I don't have an actual number of how many stops themselves will be affected by the number of alternates.
Then how did you come up with the amount of the contract of $55,800?
The total amount of the contract was our consultant that put together the project was VS Engineering. They went through it with all the bus stops and worked through Bloomington Transit and kind of gave us a by stop how much we're looking at cost wise per stop. And then Bloomington Transit came through and then broke up into the alternates themselves between alternate 1 and alternate 2 and alternate 3 about where they wanted to see those improvements take place. So a lot of that had to do with where Bloomington Transit wanted the work to be done.
Wanted that done. Okay. Thank you. I also have a question about the escrow agreement, and it said the owner of that is the Board of Public Works. Is that the way that works? The board is considered the owner of that escrow account?
through the Board of Public Works, the city will act. The escrow agreement's just kind of an extension of what the contract requirements are. That actual agreement was written by the bank as a requirement of the First Financial Bank, where we set up our accounts. The escrow agreement then would reside in both our name, the contractor's name, the bank's name. So as the Board of Public Works, it's for the city of Bloomington.
Okay, all right. We're just named for the city. Okay, thank you.
Roy, did VS Engineering do the design work as well for the stops, the upgrades of the stops, or was that done by somebody else?
The locations themselves were selected by Bloomington Transit, and then VS Engineering took those locations and prepared our set of bidding documents. And with that, they put together the design plans that are available on our website.
Cool.
They're kind of large, so I didn't put them in the packet.
Okay, great. Good to know, though. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board on this item? Are there any public comments on this item?
Nothing in the chat, and I see no hands raised.
Is there a motion from the board?
I move that we approve the construction contract with Rivertown Construction LLC for the bus stop improvement projects for $55,800.
And
Is
I
that
think
the correct total? I just want to make
Yeah.
sure.
I think we probably need to add the conditionals as well.
Okay. Add them.
So Roy, what was the total for the base bid and alternate one?
So what we're looking for ward-wise this evening, I think, is a total amount of $400,750, which is the amount of funding that we have available for the project.
You want the whole thing funded, okay.
Yeah, well, up to what we have available funding. And then we put that contingency in there, which is the condition of approval, which basically says that we'll only give a notice to proceed for the work that we actually have funding for, that we won't allow the contractor to go beyond what we have funding. And then when more funding is available next year, we will expand that notice to proceed to cover more of the work as far as we can take it until the funding is run out.
So for this motion, it would be the $400,750, Beth.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So you want me to redo that? Approve construction contract with Rivertown Construction LLC. The bus stop improvement project for $400,750, and it's a conditional approval, not beyond what we have funds available for.
Yep, and I'll just add the work will be limited to the base bid and the alternate 1, and then any additional work covered by alternates 2 and 3 will be contingent upon the funding.
Okay.
And I will second that with that condition.
All right, so we have a motion for approval to the contract for Rivertown Construction. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thanks,
Thanks. Next up, we have approve request from Reed & Sons to close Jordan Avenue from East 3rd Street to East 10th Street.
Good evening. This is Paul Kerberg with Plan and Transportation. Reed & Sons Construction, Inc. has been awarded a contract with Indiana University to replace the sanitary sewer main. As part of this work, they're requesting a full street closure of North Jordan Avenue from East Jones Avenue to East 10th Street. The work will require the closure of the sidewalk along the east side of North Jordan Avenue. The work will take place just north and south of East 7th Street. There will be the full closure on the street and then the sidewalk along the east side. And the work will take place from January 4th, 2021 to February 19th, 2021. All of the work has been coordinated with Indiana University, and classes will be off campus for a majority of the project. We've reviewed their maintenance of traffic plans, and Reed & Sons has worked with IU Transit and Emergency Services. We reviewed the request and recommend approval of the closure.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item? Are there any public comments on this item?
Nothing in the chat, and I see no hands raised.
Is there a motion from the board?
I move approval of the request from Reed & Sons to close Jordan Avenue from East 3rd Street to East 10th Street from January 4th, 21 to February 9th, 21.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have approved construction contract with Rivertown Construction LLC for the West 6th Street, North Elm Street Sidewalk project.
Good evening, Michael Large, Public Works. This project is part of the city's Recover Forward initiative. It is to replace the sidewalks on West 6th Street from North Elm to North Fairview. In addition, it will also replace the eastern sidewalk on North Elm Street from West 4th to West 5th Street. Whilst there were a total of 5 bids that were opened, while CGR LLC submitted the lowest bid while staff was evaluating, it was found that they did not include portions of the project that was in the total scope of the work to be completed, so therefore they were found to be non-responsive. Therefore, Rivertown Construction LLC was the lowest and most responsible bidder at $249,250. Construction is anticipated to begin in the spring of 2021. Staff recommends that the contract be awarded to Rivertown Construction LLC. If you have any questions, please feel free.
Thanks. Questions from the board on this item? Any public comment on this item?
I see no chat or hands raised.
All right, seeing no public comment, is there a motion on this item?
I move that we approve construction contract with Rivertown Construction LLC for the West 6th Street, North Elm Street sidewalk project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We wanted to just go back for clarification on the motion for the request to close Jordan Avenue from 3rd to 10th. Dana had realized that in her motion, she said February 9th, but the February 19th was actually the end date listed in the packet. So Dana, did you want to clarify your motion?
Yeah, so I guess just going back, I'll make a motion to approve the request from Reed & Sons to close Jordan Ave from East to 10th Street from January 4th, 21 to February 19th, 21.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have approve Indot LPA Local Roads and Bridges Matching Grant Agreement.
Michael Large, Public Works, once again, representing Joe Van Diever in the Street Division. The City of Bloomington was awarded $191,326.70 through Indot's Community Crossings Matching Grant in the second quarter of 2020. This program is to perform maintenance work on East Discovery Parkway from North Range Road to 1,220 feet east of Senior Route, State Road 45 South. The grant requires a 50% local match. This Indot LPA contract is required for Indot to make these funds available to us. So this approval is to award those matching grant funding Staff recommends that the board approves the Indot LPA Local Roads and Bridges Matching Grant Agreement. Any questions?
Questions from the board?
Have dates when they're going to begin this maintenance work? Apparently it has to be done now.
There is no tentative dates for the work to begin, Beth. Once the money is secured, then we will start the bid process for that project.
All right. Okay.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
No hands raised, no chat.
All right, do we have a motion from the board?
I move that we approve Indot LPA Local Roads and Bridges Matching Grant Agreement.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have staff reports and other business.
Michael Large, Public Works. Just say for myself, Adam Wason, and the rest of the Public Works staff, a big thank you to everyone. I just like to reiterate what the board expressed in the beginning. It's been a long year, but we've accomplished a lot of projects that, given the circumstances, is pretty amazing. So I just want to thank all of the staff for everything they continue to do on a daily basis, including those leavers who completed a week early last week. So kudos to everyone. I appreciate everyone, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Next up, we have approval of claims. Are there any questions from the board on claims?
No, I don't have anything.
All right, hearing none. Is there a motion from the board on claims?
I move that we approve claims $2,563,698.90.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And if we have nothing else, then I will call for adjournment.
Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone. See you after the first of the year. Goodness, January 4th. Be safe,
See you in
be
the
well,
new
and
year.
have a good time.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.